I want to say one more time, we've had some other people come on. John is almost always here on Tuesday night, but he's busy with family this week. So those of you who came on late and we're expecting to see John, he is otherwise engaged this week. So you're stuck with me. What I want to talk about a little bit tonight is nature in the Bible and how magnificently God made nature. You know, he created the universe for the earth and the earth for man. And you just look around outside. I mean, even if you live in a city, you just go out to a park sometime and look around at the plants and the trees and the blue sky and the clouds or the sunset. I mean, he made all of that for us. And we're just going to talk about some verses tonight that talk about that a little bit. So I hope you all get blessed by it. Let me see, how am I going to do this? I'm not used to teaching, so I get too many windows on the screen. If you want to follow along, go to Genesis chapter 1.
Genesis chapter 1.
Let's see here. In Genesis chapter 1, in verse 1, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. I'm not going to go through the next several verses, but in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And then go down to verse 14. And God said, let there be lights in the expanse of the heavens to separate the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and for years, and let them be for lights in the expanse of the heavens to give light to the earth. And it was so. God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day and a lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. And God set them in the expanse of the heavens to give light on the earth and to rule over the day and over the night and to separate the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. And there was evening and the morning, a fourth day. And in verse 20, and God said, we're getting into some, I don't know, the nature stuff, I guess. And God said, let the water swarm with swarms of living souls, and let the birds fly above the earth in the open expanse of the heavens. And God created the large sea creatures and every living soul that moves, with which the waters swarmed according to their kind, and every winged bird after its kind. And God saw that it was good. And God blessed them, saying, be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters in the seas, and let the birds multiply on the earth. And there was evening and there was morning, a fifth day. And go to Genesis chapter 2. If I can get there. Verse 8. God created, I'm finishing up chapter 1, God created Adam and Eve. And then in chapter 2, verse 8, Yahweh God planted a garden in the east, in Eden, and there he put the man whom he had formed. Out of the ground, Yahweh God made every tree to grow that is pleasant to the sight and good for food. The tree of life also in the middle of the garden, and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And verse 15, Yahweh took the man and he put him into the Garden of Eden to work it and to care for it. And Yahweh God commanded the man, saying, of every tree of the garden you may eat, yes, eat. But of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, you must not eat of it, for in the day you eat of it, you will die. I'm not going to go into that story, but we all know what happened in the next chapter. And now, if you can get over there quick, Psalm 115. I've got to get there. And in verse 16, the heavens are the heavens of Yahweh, but the earth he has given to the children of men. You know, God created everything. He created the universe, he created the earth, and he created man, and he created the earth for man. And if you look at everything that's in the earth, I mean, all the plants, the varieties of plants, there's verses about how he you know, there's plants for food for animals, there's plants for food for men. It is, I mean, he made it to be a paradise, and especially Eden. You know, they were supposed to take care of the Garden of Eden. But then things fell, things kind of turned apart. And this is a little bit of an aside, sort of, but I want to show this picture. This is sort of what they thought the earth looked like. You know, you all probably heard of ancient Near East cosmology. Well, I believe that the way the earth is described, this is how they saw it. I mean, the earth was flat. There's verses that says it's supported on pillars, hanging on nothing. There's the deep, there's shale down here. Some pictures of this have Tartarus below it. And the firmament is over the earth. There are stars stuck in the firmament, and the moon and the sun move across the firmament. There's waters above the firmament. And I think these, windows and doors of heaven. Remember when the flood happened, God opened the windows of heaven and, you know, flooded the earth and everything. And God lives way up on top up here, above the heaven of heavens. And, you know, I think that's how they saw things. I mean, this is a fairly common picture, a fairly common description of the way the ancients viewed things. I mean, they didn't know we had a solar system. I don't think they understood the earth was a globe. You know, you could make the argument there are some places in the Bible that kind of say the earth, they kind of could hint that the earth was a globe, but maybe. I'm not going to say yes, I'm not going to say no on that. I believe that this is the way they understood things, and God worked with what he had, you know, and this is how they portrayed it. We're going to talk about the part that's in here. This is where we are in the earth part. And I'll stop sharing right now. And let's see. Go to Romans chapter 1. Please. Starting verse 18. For the wrath of God is being revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of people who hinder the truth by unrighteousness. Because what can be known about God is plain to them, for God has made it plain to them. For since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes, his eternal power and divine nature are clearly seen, being understood through the things he has made, so that they are without excuse. You know, I think if a person's honest and they just look around at things in the world, I think that the hand of a creator is obvious. God says it's obvious in his word. You know, people should understand that there's a God just by looking out their window at nature. Or if you're a scientist, you know, you get into your microscope, you get into human anatomy and how the body works. Or if you're an astronomer, you know, you get your telescope out and look up in the heavens and try to grasp a concept of how big the heavens are. You know, you guys probably heard, they just recently, 2 or 3 days ago, launched a new telescope. It's sort of Hubble's big brother or something, and it's supposed to be far, far better. It's going to orbit the sun about 1 million miles outside of the Earth's orbit. If I remember, we're 93 million miles from the sun. Well, this telescope's going to be 94 million miles from the sun, and it's going to orbit the sun. And they think it's going to be so good that they're going to be able to look back thousands or tens of thousands of years in time. You know, I'm no scientist, but I know that light travels at 186,000 miles an hour, and they can see so far out there that the light they're looking at will have been formed or would have originated millions of years ago. I just can't fathom how big the universe is. It's just huge. And again, you think about God made it for us. He made it for the world, and he made the world for us. That's kind of cool to think about. Some places in the Bible that talk about nature, go to Isaiah 55. I think God has some really cool imagery that he uses. Let's see, Isaiah 55. And in verse 12, this is a common verse that, I mean, most of us know it. For you will go out with joy and be led forth with peace, and the mountains and the hills will break forth into singing before you, and all the trees of the field will clap their hands. I mean, you know, that's God using a picture of nature. And if you can envision that, if you've ever been out in the mountains somewhere and looked down a valley, it's just covered with trees, and just picture all the trees clapping their hands, and you know, it just paints a nice mind picture to me. Go to Psalm 8, please. This is a cool psalm. It's a short psalm, so we'll read the whole thing, but I was going to read verses 3 to 8, but we'll read the whole thing. It's short. O Yahweh, our Lord, how majestic is your name in all the earth. You have set your glory above the heavens. Remember that the picture I showed just a minute ago. God set his glory above the heavens up there. From the mouth of babes and infants, you have established strength because of your adversaries, to silence the enemy and the avenger. When I look at your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars that you have established, what is man that you think of him, and the son of man that you visit him? For you have made him a little lower than God. That ties back with our being made in God's image. You've made him a little lower than God. You crowned him with glory and honor. You made him a ruler over the works of your hands. You put all things under his feet, all of the sheep and cattle, even the animals of the field, the birds of the heavens, the fish of the sea, and whatever passes through the paths of the sea. O Yahweh, our Lord, how majestic is your name in all the earth. I think that's just a beautiful psalm. And just talks a little bit about what God has done to create this world that we live in. Psalm 104. Starting at verse 10. He sends forth springs into the valleys. They flow between the mountains. They give drink to every animal of the field. The wild donkeys quench their thirst. The birds of the heavens dwell above them. They lift their voices among the branches. He waters the mountains from his upper chambers. The earth is satisfied with the fruit of your works. He causes the grass to grow for the cattle and plants for man to tend, so that he may bring forth food from the earth, wine that makes glad the heart of man, oil to make his face shine, and food that strengthens the heart of man. The trees of Yahweh are satisfied, the cedars of Lebanon that he has planted, where the birds nest, even the stork whose home is in the firs. The high mountains are for the wild goats, the cliffs are a refuge for the rock badgers. He made the moon for seasons. The sun knows the place of its setting. You make darkness, it becomes night when all the forest animals prowl. The young lions roar after their prey and seek their food from God. That's cool. The sun rises and they withdraw and lie down in their dens. Man goes forth to his work and to his labor until the evening. Again, this descriptive of the things God made, the nature, the birds, the wild animals. Someday I hope to be able to see a forest of the cedars of Lebanon. I don't know what that would look like. I'm not sure what a cedar of Lebanon is. I know what cedar trees are, but I don't know what a cedar tree over in Lebanon would look like. They were, I think they were used to help build the temple. But anyway, just a whole lot of stuff that God did And again, remind, going back to Psalm 115:16, don't go there, but it says about how the earth was given to men. God gave us all of this. Go to Matthew chapter 26. Oh, I'm sorry, Matthew 6. Matthew 6. And verse 26. Starting in verse 25. Therefore, I say to you, don't be anxious about your life, what you'll eat or what you'll drink, nor about your body, what you're going to put on. Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothing? Look at the birds of heaven. They don't sow, nor do they reap, nor gather into barns, and your heavenly Father feeds them. We'll get to another verse in a minute that God cares about the animals that he's created. He feeds the animals he's created. Continuing on, are you not worth much more than they? That's another thing. We're created in God's image. We're a little lower than God. God created all these things on the earth, all the animals on the earth, and he cares about them, and how much more that he cares about us. Are not you worth much more than they? And which of you, by being anxious, is able to add 1 cubit to the measure of his life? And why are you anxious concerning clothing? Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They don't toil or spin. Yet I say to you that even Solomon in all his glory did not clothe himself like one of these. This is Jesus Christ speaking, And he said, he says, I'm telling you that not even Solomon in all his glory did not clothe himself like one of these. Jesus Christ had a very deep appreciation of nature too, I believe. Just to say something like that a flower, and some of the flowers are just in the world are just awesome. Jesus thought the flowers were beautiful, more beautiful than the glory of Solomon. Luke chapter 12. Verse 6. Kind of the same thing. Are not 5 sparrows sold for 2 Assyria? And not one of them is forgotten in the sight of God. But not one of them, not one sparrow is forgotten in the sight of God. But even all the hairs of your head have been counted. Don't be afraid, you are of more value than many sparrows. It's just neat how when Jesus Christ is teaching here, he still, he brings the animals into it, and God is concerned. There's another verse somewhere, I thought I had it in here, but I don't. God is aware when a sparrow falls. I don't know. I wonder what he thinks about that. I used to ride motorcycles. I haven't in a few years, but I used to ride motorcycles. And when you ride a motorcycle, you are very aware of smells. And I became more aware of roadkill when I used to ride a motorcycle. In a car, you're sealed in your little car with the air conditioning on. But on a motorcycle, you become aware of smells like that. And there's an incredible number of wildlife killed by automobiles. And if God knows when a sparrow falls, he must know when a possum gets run over too. And he's got to care about that. I'm sure that he does. Sometimes God uses nature to teach us lessons. Go to Proverbs chapter 6. Proverbs chapter 6, verse 6. Go to the ant, O lazy one. Watch its ways and become wise. Isn't that cool? You can look at wildlife and learn things, about ways to live wisely. Go to the ant, O lazy one, watch its ways and become wise. It has no leader, overseer, or ruler, yet it prepares its bread in the summer, gathers its food in the harvest, and so forth and so on. That is just another awesome thing about God, the way all these little insects that you don't give a hoot about, and I squish them. I don't like spiders. Sorry, but I don't like spiders. But they all have, they all have instinct. They all do things. Ants, colonies of thousands of ants, all have a way to live, and God just programmed them. Sorry about the dings. He just programmed them to do these things, and then he says, hey, go look at the ants. We can learn things from the way God made some of the wildlife, and I think that's kind of cool. Psalm chapter 1. Another very familiar verse to most of us. Verse 3. Verse 2, but his delight is in Yahweh's Torah. On his Torah, he meditates day and night. If a person does this, he'll be like a tree planted by the streams of water that brings forth its fruit in its season, whose leaf also does not wither, and in whatever he does, he prospers. That's kind of cool. Again, I think all of humanity was basically an agrarian society up until just a couple hundred years ago, maybe 300 years ago. And so all these things, in the Bible about plants and trees and shrubs and grasses and flowers, I think people could relate a lot more to that because they were they were so much closer to that type of thing in their lives. I mean, now we're all, for the most part, I think most of us here, we're not farmers. We live in houses or apartments in towns, or we go to the grocery store to get our food. We don't grow it. And so, but in the Bible, in the biblical culture, in their society, these analogies, I think they meant a lot to them, and I think that maybe they should mean more to us. Go to Jeremiah 17, please. Starting in verse 5. This is a little bit more of the same, but it's starting in verse 5. This is what Yahweh says. Cursed is the one who trusts in humans and makes flesh his arm, and whose heart departs from Yahweh, for he will be like a juniper in the desert. He will not see when good comes, but will inhabit the parched places in the wilderness, a salt land and not inhabited. Blessed is the one who trusts in Yahweh and whose confidence is Yahweh, for he will be like a tree planted by the waters, who spreads out its roots by the river and does not fear when heat comes, but its leaf will be green, and it will not be anxious in the year of drought, nor will it cease from yielding fruit. I mean, look at it's two pictures of nature directly contrasting each other. One is a tree in the middle of the desert with nothing, and the other one is the tree planted by a river that's doing very well. Another analogy that we can learn from, turn to John 15. And in verse 4, please. Jesus Christ speaking here. Live in union with me, and I will live in union with you. As the branch is not able to bear fruit by itself unless it lives in union with the vine, so neither can you unless you live in union with me. I'm the vine. You are the branches. The one who lives in union with me and I in him, that is the one who will bear much fruit, because apart from me, you're not able to do anything. Again, another plant thing, Jesus Christ is the vine, and You know, we want to be attached to him. We don't want to be broken off and stuck in a little glass of water way over here and try to survive on our own. We want to be attached to the vine. The whole analogy of that, I'm sure a lot of you remember the ministry that a lot of us came from. It was the tree structure. You know, you had the root, the trunk, and the limbs, and the branches, and the twigs. That was really a pretty good analogy, a pretty good way to go, I thought. It was interesting. One more, Habakkuk 3. This will be another familiar verse, if you can find Habakkuk. "19. Yahweh the Lord is my strength. He makes my feet like deer's feet and enables me to go in high places." Again, we're being, you know, compared to an animal. The deer in this case is very sure-footed up in the mountains, and that was interesting too. So we have this world, you know, God created it. He created the universe. He created the world. He created the world for us. And, you know, we're not doing too well with it. You know, I'm not going to go and start talking about, you know, Earth Day or stuff like that. And, you know, we got to save Mother Earth. But God does want us to, we should be taking better care of this. And there's verses in the Bible about how man is destroying the earth. One of them is Revelation chapter 11. Have a look at that real quick. And in verse 18, where's the beginning? "And the nations were enraged, and your wrath has come, and the time for the dead to be judged, and the time to give rewards to your servants, the prophets, and to the holy ones, and to those who fear your name, both the small and the great, and to destroy those who destroy the earth." You know, I think John's talked about this in some of his seminars. I can't remember which one, but Jacques Cousteau, you know, everybody knows who Jacques Cousteau is. He has said that in his lifetime, he has seen the quantity of sea life decrease by half. You know, one man, I don't know if he's still alive, but in one man's lifespan, you know, whatever he was, however many years he was in the water, he's seen the population of sea life decrease by a tremendous amount. And, you know, again, if you look at what we're doing to the rainforest, look at what we're doing to, you know, strip mining, when they go in mountains after stuff we need to live, they say, but they're just leveling mountains and and destroying habitat. This may be a little bit of my opinion, and you take it for what it's worth, but I think the whole thing about electric cars is a bit of a sham, because yeah, they don't bring gasoline, but the batteries it takes to run an electric car, they have to go mine these chemicals, these not chemicals, what's the word, the things that batteries are made of, and they're very expensive, and it's very destructive to take that stuff out of the earth, you know, and we're being told that it's the panacea, it's the answer, we're all going to go green, we're all going to get an electric car, and there's, you know, it's going to fix the pollution on the earth. Well, it's not. But one day the earth is going to be fixed. You guys remember John's teaching from a year or two ago about the unique day, God's unique day. Zechariah, I can't remember where, but if you go to the RED or go to the YouTube channel and look for unique day, there's going to be a day when the earth is going to be healed. The streams are going to be fixed. The mountains are going to be fixed. Everything's going to be fixed. The earth is going to be restored to paradise. And we have all those other great promises that we all know, you know, animal nature is going to change, and no more war. There'll be plenty of food, all those promises in the millennial kingdom. again on the earth. You know, everybody, so many Christians these days, you know, I want to die and go to heaven. I want to die and go to heaven. Well, Matthew 5:5, the meek shall inherit the earth. God made the earth for man. That's where we're going to be, and looking forward to that. What I want to do right now is, I don't know if this will be cut out or not, but this is from the introduction to John Lynn's class called One Day with the Creator. It's about 6 minutes long, and it's just it's a song, and it also has a bunch of nature scenes in it. It's cool. So I'm going to play that right now. Share sound. It's here, and we're going to go.
I have felt the wind blow, whispering your name. I have seen your tears fall when I watch the rain. And how could I say there is no God when all around creation calls a singing bird, a mighty tree, the vast expanse of open sea? Gazing at a bird in flight, soaring through the air, lying down beneath the stars. I feel your presence there. I love to stand at ocean shore and feel the thundering breakers roar, to walk through golden fields of grain, 'neath endless blue horizons frame. Listening to a river run, watering the earth, fragrance of a rose in bloom, a newborn's cry at birth. How could I say there is no God when all around creation calls a singing bird, a mighty tree, the vast expanse of open sea? I love to stand at ocean shore and feel the thundering breakers roar, to walk through
watching that video, some of those scenes just give me chills, the way that that camera work was done and stuff. You're pulling back on that flock of birds that just, it's just amazing. We have a great big God, and he made us a wonderful place to live. And I just wanted to share a few things on that. So thanks very much, and God bless you all.